Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schrader. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. Today we have Hallie Bateman on the show. She is the #1 best-selling illustrator of What to Do When I'm Gone, A Mother's Wisdom to Her Daughter, as well as the new book, Directions, really good advice for getting from here to there. She has more than 100,000 Instagram followers. She is an illustrator after all, so her Instagram is quite entertaining with all of the illustrations that she posts. So without further ado, Hallie Bateman, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, let's start with your illustration skills, because I'll admit I don't know any professional illustrators. I know some graphics designers, I know some artists, but when it comes to illustration, I'm just talking within my friends and family circle. I don't know any. So how did you build up and hone your illustration skills? And did you do this while working from home?
Yeah, so I began as a small child when I worked from home, when I would doodle. I was really into comics and drawing as a kid, and then I actually studied writing in college, and really in my junior year, I was taking these writing classes, and I was feeling a little like something was missing, and I took an art class. It was like the first art class I'd ever taken in my life. And it was a class where they had us use those like fancy dip pens where it has like a metal nib and you dip it in a well of ink. And I wrote with that pen and I drew with that pen, and I was like, well, I'm amazing at this. And just like it somehow helped me see my drawings as, more than just doodles and more than just something to laugh at. I mean, my work has always been based in humor, but using that pen kind of like was a lightning bolt for me, and I started to just try to draw and illustrate for anything that I could. And I really wound up illustrating for myself as a writer, and I actually call myself an illustrator because I really combine words and images, and so much of my Instagram, as you'll see if you follow me, is words and writing, and I really couldn't have one without the other.
Yeah, I've gone through life and never thought of myself as, a good person, good at drawing, person who could do that. And it was kind of always, it seemed like something out of my reach. But then I recently, in the past couple of years, as I've been teaching my kids, we got into doing some, I don't know if you've heard of the guy, his name is Mark Kistler. He used to do a bunch of PBS shows and really teaches drawing and creativity. And the whole concept and like accepting that you're a good artist as you're starting to do it, and deciding that, it's okay that it's not perfect, and I can kind of, whatever I decide to do is all right, is a big journey. I mean, giving yourself the ability to look at your stuff and be like, this is good, is is a mountain to climb. How did you reach the point where you thought, this stuff is good enough that I can sell it?
I never really, I'm thinking back to especially those early days, and even still now, I don't know if I look at it and always think this is good. I look at it and I think this is, and I had fun making it. And the way that I got through that, I think especially at the beginning when you're starting to make art as adults, especially when we don't have that childlike approach to it. I think that we often compare it to some idea that we have in our head, and like nothing can match that. And the way that I've always seen art. It was not about matching an idea in my head. It was about the truth coming out on paper and something that feels honest, or something that just like is an expression coming out on paper, and it exists on paper, but it doesn't really it doesn't exist to be compared to something in my head, if that makes sense.
What exercises or practice do you do to stay sharp and fresh? And if you can also describe your process of those practices and exercises while you're making your art.
Yeah, so I see my art practice as something that truly from the moment that I described, where I discovered that pen and I was like, "Ooh, okay, I'm an artist. I'm going to do this. This matters to me." From that moment, my art is a practice that is with me wherever I am in life, whether I'm like backpacking through Europe and I just have a pencil and a sketchbook, or I'm in bed writing in my journal at night, or anything like that. I see it as something that's really woven through my life. And your podcast is about working from home. Like, this is working from home, and being in close proximity to the art you make is like so much of what enables me to create. Is that thing where you can be in the shower and you can have an idea, and then you run to your office and write it down. And the way that I kind of ritualize and practice my work is by really like enjoying the materials that I work with. And I talked about how this pen sparked everything for me. I don't even use those pens anymore. They actually drive me crazy now. But I love working with new pens, with brushes, with crayons, with paints. Like, I want to just get messy and get into it. And I think that the key to being okay with the fact that what you make might not be perfect or might not be what you imagined is having fun making it. Because if you enjoy the process, the outcome is really not so important, you know?
So are you talking about, I was kind of surprised when you said you don't use the pencils anymore. So I thought you were going to say you use like a digital stylus and like a, little mouse pad. I don't
Oh,
even know
no.
what they call them. So how do you go through your process of drawing and then digitizing and doing all of that?
Yeah, so yeah, the pen that I said I don't use anymore is just this like old-fashioned nib pen that gets really like, you have to like keep it really clean, and it's just this it's a little too much for me right now. But yeah, I have two desks in my office. I have a desk that is a computer and a scanner and a tablet and all of those things. And then I have a desk next to it that has my brushes, my paints. One desk, the computer desk, is like perfectly clean. The art desk is, the surface of it has all these stains and scratches and like glue that can't come up. And um, I make art on the art desk, and I scan it, and I share it, and I edit it in the computer desk. But I've always needed both of those, and I do work digital when my job requires it. Like, there's some things, like I illustrated a book that was about medicine a few years ago, that was about the human body, and I could not draw anatomy very easily freehand. So I ended up drawing that digitally. But in general, for me, I can get really lost in the act of creativity when I'm not on a device that has a portal to Twitter and to the rest of the world.
Can you give us some examples of how powerful your work has been, maybe influences that you've made, fans reaching out, changes that have come about because of your artwork?
Hmm. I mean, in many ways, I feel like that's a question for my audience. I don't always know, what happens when a book comes out in the world. But I could certainly talk about, with my last book. So, What to Do When I'm Gone is a book I wrote a few years ago with my mom. Her name is Susie Hopkins, and I asked her to write me a book that was instructions, step-by-step instructions on what to do beginning the moment she dies so that I wouldn't have to be without her guidance in life. And we wrote this book that it started being something just for me that I wanted, just for my own reference. And it turned out to be this collaboration between us that was really about our specific relationship. But when we publish the book and it has my illustrations and it's this kind of gentle, guide through grief, that had an impact that I could not have conceived of. We heard from so many readers and continue to hear from readers that, everything from this book helped me grieve the loss of my cat to, I gave this book to my friend when they lost someone and it's been a huge help, and just, hearing from people, even just one person, that it made this incredibly painful part of life a little easier is really, really gratifying.
I will say, whenever I was looking up that book, when you said that your mom said the first thing you would do is make fajitas and pour yourself a stiff whiskey, that's not the answer that my mom would give, probably. But what were some of the things that you learned that your mom thought you should do that you wouldn't have crossed your mind?
It was kind of everything from, so my mom is very, as you might imagine, like funny and interested in talking about death. So it was kind of this interesting process where I asked her all these questions, and then kind of my questions guided her instructions. Like I would ask, like, Mom, what should I do if I want to talk to you? I've got something, something that I really want to share with you, but you're just dead. And she was like, well, just text me. And I was like, Mom, what? Like, text you? And she was like, yeah, I'll just keep my phone number. And like my mom kind of like acted as if her phone would remain activated, and I had to push her on it. And finally she was like, okay, you can talk to me. You can go for a walk and like draw in the sand and talk to me even if I'm not there.
Almost like
And
a reverse email account. Some people make email accounts for their kids when they're born, and they'll send them like update emails so they can read them when they're later in life. I guess you could have an email account and send her questions or something.
yeah, I never thought about that. But yeah, my mom's advice, a lot of it was, stuff like allowing you to like continue to live a joyful whole life, even though, in my fear, like my whole world would fall away without my mom. And the message that my mom reinforced again and again in What to Do When I'm Gone is, you know what to do. You are not lost without me. I'm like, I'm not going to be forgotten. I will be in your memories. You kind of know what I would say anyway, which is totally true. Like, especially after writing this book with my mom, I can very accurately tell you what my mom would say about just about anything. So it's comforting in that way.
So was your mom an author and a writer? Did you get the artistic genes from her?
I would say I got my journalistic curiosity from her. My mom and my dad are actually both journalists. So I grew up in a house where my parents were always talking about writing, and our house was like filled with books, and there was a lot of reading. And then the piece of, drawing and art entering the picture was really my own. Like, I didn't know any visual artists or anything, but I brought that, I guess, and kind of combined it with this journalistic sensibility of asking questions about everything, and writing in a way that's not so, like, my parents are very like, journalists, they don't believe in writer's block. They're doing a job. And so I think I got my sort of sense of like, I'm not gonna waste time being fanciful about this. This is a job and I'm gonna do it. And even if the job is like drawing a cartoon, you can take that seriously and you can, execute it.
That's good to know. I'm curious to know, how about your dad? Are we going to see a book about a father's wisdom to his daughter?
I've talked to him a little bit about that. I think my dad's approach would definitely be more a little more jovial and a little, well, my mom is incredibly funny, but my dad's sense of humor is a little bit more like, maybe it would be like what not to do when I'm gone or something. I'm not really sure, but we've definitely talked about it.
Can you tell us a little bit about your new book, your directions, really good advice from getting for getting from here to there. How does an artist and artwork get us from here to there? Or how do you do that in a visual way?
hmm so the way that I see directions is that they kind of give you maybe a bridge that you might need to arrive somewhere better. So I have an example, like one of them is one possible solution to this dire, urgent problem is to go to bed and deal with it in the morning. So from here to there, in that case, like here is I'm panicking. It's one in the morning. I'm trying to like think through some issue that is much bigger than the moment calls for. And this direction tells you, go to bed. Think about this tomorrow. Like this maybe isn't as big of a emergency as you might think it to be. And I think a lot of my directions are, they're not so much advice in the way of trying to fix you or trying to, help you achieve some goal. It's really about helping you be at peace with where you're at and try to actually enjoy where you're at and go easy on yourself.
So what's next for you?
I don't know.
I mean, are you looking right now? Do you consider yourself more like going in the book author route, or are you thinking you're gonna kind of stick with the just art in general without writing more books?
Oh, I'm an author for sure. I mean, this is my third book, and I don't see myself stopping making books anytime soon. But, every book takes years of your life. And so I don't like to, work on a book and then jump from one to the next. In my mind, that would be like going through a relationship and then or maybe like maybe like having a baby and then becoming pregnant like the day the baby's born, like again, like I need space between books to find out, who am I now? Who am I after making this book? What do I actually care about? I'm not trying to make as many books as I can in my lifetime. I'm trying to make the right books in my lifetime.
Excellent. That's Hallie Bateman, best-selling illustrator of What to Do When I'm Gone, A Mother's Wisdom to Her Daughter, and the new book, Directions, really good advice for getting from here to there. Check her out at halliebateman.com. That's Hallie, Hallie Bateman, Bateman, halliebateman.com. Hallie, any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners or anything else you want to promote?
I really want to share maybe a final direction because it's been a very intense, year and a half or however long we've been in this pandemic. So I want to remind people, when it's good, try to enjoy it. Things are allowed to be good.
Completely agree. And my direction would be, just try to enjoy everything. Even when it's bad, try to enjoy it. Stay positive. That would be my direction. I don't know if you would agree with that, but
Yeah, I mean, root canals aside, I think there's something to
Enjoy
be
it.
said. I think there's something to be. Actually, I did hear one of my friends said he enjoyed a root canal recently, so it is possible. But yeah, I think that just remembering that it's an absolute miracle that we're here and trying to see things through that lens. Like if you're in traffic and you're angry,
Enjoy it.
what is a car? What is life? Like think about things from
You could
from a
be walking.
perspective of awe.
Yeah, I had a small procedure a few months ago that some people dub nickname as male childbirth. And people can look it up if they want. I won't get into details about it here. And I really enjoyed it. It wasn't the most pleasant experience, but it was an experience, and I knew going into it that it was going to be somewhat painful or very painful, but I enjoyed it. The person who did the procedure on me, he and I were just talking and having a good time, and we connected over a lot of different topics, and it helped ease the pain a little bit, and it was a good time. You don't hear that too often with this
Yeah,
specific type of procedure, so just enjoy.
absolutely.
So
And
with
I
that
want to
being
say,
said,
I want to say before we go, when I was looking on your site, that your very first picture in your shop, I absolutely love the "It's a Miracle We Ever Met." That is something that I think a subject kind of that I think about a lot, and I like to look at people's lives as like a Venn diagram, and every person
Hmm.
we meet and every person you even see on the street or in the car has their own world basically that they live in,
yeah,
and it's just a whole bunch of circles that are, if you look at your life as a circle, it's, and you look at the world in general, it ends up being one huge Venn diagram with overlapping circles. And
Absolutely.
yeah, very interesting. Well, thank you so much, Hallie Bateman, for joining us on the Work From Home Show. To all our listeners, check us out at workfromhomeshow.com. That's www.workfromhomeshow.com. You can check out all of our previous episodes there, get on our mailing list, subscribe to us on iTunes, leave us reviews, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever podcasting platform you use to listen to us. Leave us a review, send us a screenshot. We'll send you something else free of charge. And if you have any questions for us or any comments about this interview with Hallie or anything else, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. That's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. That's our email address. We're on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, follow us. And until next week, keep on working from home.